All right, guys, appreciate you taking a drop into this today and looking at building a base cover four system. I want to thank Coach Bandstra again for having me on. We had a good time running a little chat on some of the run stopping stuff out of cover four, and we thought that we'd come back and get you a little bit of pass system stuff too. And just to show you at the very beginning here, guys, it's something that comes from our head coach and everything that we're putting out to our kids this off season. We've talked so much about the importance of branding and making sure that our values are visible and whatnot. So, we put a couple of these things together. I just have it up there for you. Those 5 keywords in our mission statement, building champions for life. That's being pushed upon our kids, and so that they see it and they absorb it and kind of go from there. But that's how we're starting off. I'm not going to dig too deep in this stuff. If some of you guys watched my last clinic, it was more about our philosophy stuff. It's just my background. I'm defense coordinator at Portage Central High School, and inside linebackers coach. Before that was outside backers, safeties, and O-line, and then DC at White Pigeon, and where I grew up was Hazlitt, Michigan, East Lansing area, various levels there through college and all that good stuff. So very, very fortunate to be on a great staff at Portage Central. And, ran through this last time a little bit. Just want to highlight, we're in Southwest Michigan, and with a school of 1,400 kids, we are a little bit bigger, but typically we carry only about maybe 40 kids on our varsity on any given year. So we do have all our guys going 2 ways. Our head coach, Mick Enders, great coach to work under, gives me free reign defensively to do, our thing. And really appreciate that. It's a very supportive environment to work under. Got a great staff. Safeties coach who's phenomenal. Has been around the block forever. A corners coach who played at Western Michigan. Really guys that know their stuff. So I get to coach the inside backers. And even though we're talking our coverage system today with our secondary guys, I can be pretty hands off on that in the season, and that's awesome. So anyways, we're kind of get rolling with this today. We're going to just run you through just our base agenda, what we're trying to look at here, talk a little bit of philosophy. Why do we believe in cover four? And, a big thing that we do is we're a press corner team, and we'll talk about why that comes into play. We'll have some film there for you. And then with what we're talking about, I think it's always important to back that up with some relevant statistics and just kind of show you the things that we're emphasizing, that how that's kind of worked for us. We can put that into practice there. Real quick, we'll talk just how we organize things, our personnel, base match responsibilities. If you're familiar with quarters, you probably know that system and how that works out with matching the numbered receivers and all that stuff. But we'll run you through there as if we're listening from a standpoint as maybe this might be brand new to you. So we'll try to hit it from that aspect. But our base checks, all those things in quotes there, that's our terminology. That's what we call it. And I kind of put in parentheses there what that might look like in terms of normal language. So our base thing, we call it Mustang. We're the Portage Central Mustangs. So our base check, what we do, it's very much so very similar to robber coverage, okay? And then club, we talk about that as being our cover 2, or what you might hear is 2 read, palms. And there's like 18 different names for ways that guys play it, but that's what we're kind of looking at there. And then something a little unique that we do that, I don't know that a ton of teams coach their 3x1 checks this way, and I'll talk about this one, but our midpoints check, we're pretty excited about the way that we get production out of that, and we'll talk a little bit about that today. We'll look at some film, of course. I got some good film there for you. I want to try to get to that as soon as we can, and then wrap it up some take-home points. And hopefully, that's a big deal to me, is that if you're going to put in the time to take a look at a clinic, that you can take something back that will help make your team better, right? Instead of just listening to talking ball, and it's great, but something to make your team better. So versus the pass, why cover 4? Just kind of going to run through these a little bit, but cover 4 has one of the cool things about it is the way that guys teach it differently across the country and at all different levels. So, what it really means to me is that if you get 4 vertical routes, you're going to match those vertically with 4 guys. Okay. It's a split field system, meaning that, it's a pretty popular term, but the way we define it is one half of the field has a completely separate look, a separate call than the other half. So all those, the different way that we play our check system, they're all part of the cover 4 family, right? You're going to get that matching on 4 vertical routes, even though they're just a little bit different in terms of the alignments or maybe some keys and some technique stuff that, makes it different than another check. One big thing that I think is just huge for having guys that go both ways and, not having spring ball and all that stuff is, trying to get the most out of your install time and efficiency. The mirrored install, whether you're a 4 down or a 3 down, whatever front you're running cover 4 out of, what guys do on either side of the formation is technically the same as far as how it's taught. Now, in a game situation, it's going to be a little bit different. We'll talk about that with our personnel, but allowing that cross teaching to happen allows us to get a lot done in a short period of time. Staying even to the boundary. So many teams are finding ways to put you into conflict and putting their best dude at the boundary and having different ways to get the best matchup that they want, deliver the ball to their guy in space. But, what quarters kind of gives you is different options to present a different picture. And one of the things that we're pretty big on is when we can look the same and carry the same too high shell every snap and then, do some different things out of that. We're trying to make the 17-year-old quarterback be the one that has to beat us on a Friday night, not the guru head coach who, can easily coach him throughout the week if we're just in the same stuff and being simplistic and all that. We want to make the kid work, right? So staying even to the boundary is kind of what I mean by that. And then the continuity between multiple offensive systems, wing T, flex bone area, whatever it might be. We don't go into every week thinking that we're going to play this type of coverage, that type of coverage. It's what type of quarters check are we going to get into that gives us the best chance. But second thing I put there is that quarters, in theory, the idea is you get to bracket the middle of the field, the most dangerous receivers, those slot guys. Okay, we talked a little bit about the 3x1 guy, the boundary 1 to the X. But you get high match and low match players, those slots, and the idea is that you're forcing those throws deep and outside, right? Then in terms of RPOs and play action pass and some of the more specialized things that guys are doing, it's certainly not to say in any way that one coverage is better than another and different things, but we feel like the quarter system really gives us those tools in our belt to take away run-pass conflicts, to be able to present different pictures and just be a little bit more multiple. So that's kind of what we're trying to get out of this as far as defending the pass and cover 4. Talk a little bit about press corners and what that means to us. Why do we like that? Well, for me, it's you're in phase right now, and it's a soft press. It's not a hard press. We're typically going to kick slide off. We have some film there for you that we'll show you how we teach it up and how it looks. But getting in phase right now, I feel like that's easier to coach than off technique. So does my defensive backs coach. And, we feel like there's kind of that myth out there that you have to have a superior athlete to be able to be a press corner, and that's just not the case. I mean, a mediocre corner is a mediocre corner regardless of what you're in, truthfully. But when you're pressed up and you play with good technique and you have somewhat decent athleticism, at least as good as, the kid across from you, then you can certainly play press coverage. We have no doubt about that. But big one for us is the inconsistent timing. Just getting hands on guys right away. All the routes that are being thrown in the summer and, guys developing that cohesion and that timing with each other. Well, a lot of the time that's not done versus press. And that just that one little, tweak in that mental process of that quarterback and that receiver can make all the difference. And we've seen that on film. So we'll try to take a look at some of that stuff. And then, we don't like giving up gift routes. We don't like giving up the, just a pre-snap RPO or not RPO, but pre-snap, hey, these 8 yards off, let's run a hitch and get our 6 yards and be good with it, assuming that we even make the tackle. We don't like those gift routes. So I would take that away and really force guys to work. But, most of all, guys, players love it. Players love to be impressed. You see them out working with each other and all that stuff. I mean, just backyard football, kids are playing press coverage. They see it on TV when they're watching games and whatnot. And kids enjoy that challenge. They embrace that. And we try to make that a big part of our culture and really celebrate our identity that we're a press corners team. So that's how we get into it. Kind of by the numbers, just some stats I want to show out there just in terms of when teams threw the ball against us when we were in our base cover 4. This was could have been our 3-down kind of dime package, our 3-man rush, I should say, our 4-man and our 5-mans. We do run a little bit of 5-man quarter pressure, and we won't hit that as much today, but certainly if everyone wants to talk about that, I'll show you some stuff. But we were in cover 4, guys. We had, those are our stats up there at the top, that we were 46% passing, 5 touchdowns, 7 INTs, and about 7 yards per attempt. So, pretty solid numbers when you look at it there. And then, what I look at is the deep shots too. And by definition, if they're pushing the football 20 yards or more down the field, you're 6 for 25 this past year, 24%. So, got a couple picks off that as well. But the big one that guys look at when we talk about seeing a press team, right, is that you're going to see the fade balls. And this past year, we didn't see a ton, but I think we do enough change up wise, whether it's our zone pressures and different stuff, that guys aren't just teeing up fade balls and knowing that that's what they're going to get. We saw 7 of them this past year, 3 for 7, give it 1 touchdown. But you look at the years before that, those numbers are pretty down as far as 7 for 29, low percentage throws. So we talk about low percentage throws. Well, there you go, right? Under a quarter percent there, right? The big thing obviously is that when you are seeing fade balls, you're not going to get a lot of picks. You're not going to get a lot of picks. What you do get is you do get that down marker turning over. You do get a lot of 2nd and 9 turning into 3rd and 9, right? Or 3rd down turning to 4th down. You're off the field. So they can hurt when they hit, but play the next play. That's a big thing. Is play the next play. Mental toughness with our corners. You are going to get beat every now and then. Got to turn right back around and get back on the field and get ready to play ball. Last thing there, just short intermediate routes. This is kind of crazy, and actually statted this out. We talked about it and then we went and looked at it, but against a press corner, how many routes were actually targeted? We put under 12 yards, kind of what I looked at there. And guys, we had four throws go into a press corner for a route that was under 12 yards, that short to intermediate stuff. 1 for 4, 8 yards, right? It's just we're not seeing, that a lot of high school quarterbacks are super comfortable at our level, at least, throwing into a press corner. So that's a big thing for us. That kind of goes back to that no gift thing that I was talking about there, that, we can force teams to do things that maybe they're not as used to doing as we are used to defending as far as the deep ball stuff. So those are some stats there for you. We're going to kind of zoom through personnel. I'm not going to take a ton of time with this, but, the way we do it, guys, everything's field boundary based. As a base, I should say. We might be traveling our best corner sometimes and match with their best receiver. We have a lot of good receivers in our area, especially this year. Got to be on top of it as a corner, and our kids know that, and looking forward to that challenge. But typically, the way that we look at it is our boundary guy is going to be our stronger man-to-man guy, because he can get isolated by formation. I talk about some of the 3-by-1 stuff and different ways where you can maybe manipulate as an OC. If you knew that you were seeing our base, getting that boundary safety away from that guy. Have some answers, obviously, but all in all, your boundary corner is typically your best kid, the way that we look at it. Your field kid can be a little bit taller, a basketball kid, a rangier kid. Still, obviously, we want both our corners to be strong press kids. That's what they're going to work, and that's what they're going to do. But, some of the checks and some of the things that you get into in more space, sometimes we will get away from press just because, I might be painting a different picture and maybe working to a kid's strengths or whatever it might be, something that the offense is doing. But that field corner is going to find himself in more situations where he is out in space. So he's got to be able to plant, cut, and break on the football and, do some things maybe a little bit more, I don't want to use more versatile than the boundary kid, but that's kind of the distinction that we look at between those two guys and how we try to separate them out if we have some separation between those two types of kids. But our safeties, this one, for me is a little bit more cut and dry, black and white. We have always kept our safeties field and boundary, and our field kid has always been our best dude. He's always been, if not the best athlete on our team, it's one of them. So we've been pretty fortunate to have some really good safeties here the past few years who have done some good things and gone on to the next level. But just by formation, by alignment, guys, with the ball being on the hash so often, we were close to 75% snaps from hash last year. That field safety kid's just going to find himself close to the football more often than not. It's just the way it's going to be. He's going to get attacked in space. He's got to be able to play the vertical, those slots, sometimes by himself. And he's got to be able to come down and fit the run too. We've had our field safety is typically at least a top 3 kid in terms of tackles for us. Right? It might be the 2 inside backers that are typically leading us, but that field safety he is in the hunt every play. He is in the hunt. Then we look at our boundary kid, maybe a little bit more as to sometimes you have different ways to utilize that one and maybe drop him down in the box. He doesn't see himself one-on-one with the slot as often. You're thinking 2x2, 10 personnel. It happens. Obviously, he's got to be able to play that kid vertically, but in some ways you can, for lack of a better word, maybe hide your lesser athlete in terms of your safeties at the boundary, but still be able to get a lot out of him in terms of what he's asked to do. Our overhangs, and for this I'm talking about, for the even front, you're talking about your nickel kid if you're 4-2, and then your boundary would be in that discussion, and then your 3 down is going to be, guys call it the jack or whatever it might be, your hybrid DN linebacker. But a couple ways that you can look at this and the way that we do it. We've done it field boundary, we've done it passing strength. It's kind of by choice, right? And I'm not saying one way is better than the other, but if you do have a kid to the field who is more of your maybe hybrid defensive back type kid, you can get into some more more complex types of coverages. Like, lack of a better word, complex. But if you can teach that kid like a corner, you can X out your number one of the field and all that, and you can run your different quarters checks with just between your nickel and your safety on that slot kid. So give us some different options there to do some stuff, be a little bit more multiple. But we have gotten away. We have played with that type of kid in the past. We've also played with more of a true linebacker and been able to do some things that, call wise are going to put him in a position to be successful. But personnel wise, that's kind of how it's going to look. Going back to what the safeties and the ball and the hash and all that. Your field guy is going to be a different skill set than your boundary kid, right? Your boundary kid as an overhang can be a little bit more of a thumper. He's going to be minimized in terms of his conflict, his run pass conflict by that hash when the ball's on the hash. But he's got to be able to fit the run. Obviously, that's going to be his number one job. Still, those two guys are cross-taught the exact same way for us. Okay, we're going to just kind of get into how we call our base coverage checks and what that means. And first thing, we're going to look at the match responsibilities. And a lot of guys, this is pretty consistent amongst most quarter systems. And the way the guys teach quarters obviously is going to be a little bit different from here, but this is pretty general, right? So starting from the outside in, number one's the widest eligible, number two is the second widest, then the number three. So you just get one single number three in any formation, 5 eligible receivers, not counting the quarterback. Okay, but we look at it, our corners are 1 to 2 players, our safeties are 2 match players, and our overhangs are 2 low players. And your Mike is typically your 3 guy, right? That's one of the first things that we do with our young kids is teach them how to count receivers, okay? How to identify who's eligible, give them the rules and all that. Sometimes we take that for granted with kids that, if they haven't learned it, they haven't learned it. So we start from, day one with those kids, whether they're a senior or an incoming freshman, whatever it is. But we coach them up on making sure that we can, number one, get identified and lined up as quickly as possible. But down at the bottom, I kind of got just simple reads that I'm put in there. And I think the way we coach our safeties maybe a little bit different than a lot of people. You see down there that we go 2 to Q in terms of our reads. A lot of guys are opposite of that. A lot of people are Q to 2, right? Get the intention from the quarterback, high ball, low ball, and then find the number 2. We flipped that around to where we feel like everything that we look at, we're going to get to know what we need to know based on the action of that number 2, and our safety can either add on or be in the crack replace or get himself up in the box. You're talking about a tight end attaching himself. But we feel like eye control on that number 2 is extremely important and kind of guards you at our level of kind of getting away from being hurt by the play action stuff, right? And a little bit too with some of the RPO stuff. Okay, a little bit easier for that safety to plant his foot and cut on that hitch or a bubble or whatever it might be. We feel like we can get that guy down there pretty quickly and try to, if we do get caught out in space a little bit and seeing some of the RPO stuff, that we can get the guy down and play the next play, right? So that's just the way that we do it. Overhangs are 2 to 3 guys, meaning that his match responsibility is number 2, but his eyes are on number 3. So the push alert, might be familiar with that. We work the heck with our linebackers out of, if that number 3 pushes out of the backfield, the push call, overhang takes him over. Mike absorbs that new number 2, and that's how you defend crossers as a base, right? A little bit more to it than that, obviously, but drill the heck out of that. Starts in the summer, in the spring, really, when we get our hands on our guys. But that's one of the base coverage concepts that we work with our linebackers, just rerouting slots. For Mike's, it's rerouting a number 3 potentially, and then working that push exchange is a big thing that needs to get drilled in quarters coverage. Okay. Talking about our base check is what we call Mustang. And again, it's very, very similar to robber. We'll talk about some of the differences here, but we'll play that against 1 and 2 detached. And the way that we coach it, going back again, a lot of guys have different ways that even if they're impressed and playing that corner number 1, when we're in this, we play man everywhere he goes. Can you get into, releasing the unders or dropping off on the 5-yard hitch, get under the smash route? You can do all that stuff. Absolutely. We've found, though, and this is just experience for us, that the more that we talked about that, the less confident those guys got in terms of playing their primary responsibility of playing man-to-man in that number 1. So, guys, we go everywhere he goes. We play press coverage everywhere he goes. This is what it is, right? And again, that's only a detached number 1 in that case. Safety guys, we talk about being on number 2. Alignment's determined by whether he's a tight end attached, wing attached, or a slot who's removed out there. But, attached alignment-wise is going to be slightly outside. He's the force player against the run. When that detached slot is out there, you protect the middle of the field. You've got assistance from your overhang kid walling him off as well. but you are inside, right? Inside leverage, 10 yards off the receiver, not 10 yards off the line of scrimmage, 10 yards off the receiver. Okay, again, we talked about being reading to the queue vertically, and then what's a vertical route? Again, with high school kids, you got to keep it really, really simple. Some guys give landmarks. Some guys, talk about different things. We just try to keep it really simple visually in terms of what you're looking at. And your peripheral vision is that guy behind your linebacker. Can anybody else cover him, right? And if the answer is no, well, then it's got to be you. It's got to be you. And what we tell our kids is that they cannot be wrong if they man that number 2. Yeah, you cannot be wrong if you man that number 2, right? Are you going to leave your corner on an island? Whoop-de-doo. Yeah, that happens a lot anyways, right? All good. We just got to make sure that we're not giving up the free stuff, right? I put just a note in there. One of the things that can be a quarters beater a little bit is the tight end drag. So our safeties are always alert for that, and they're supposed to match those drag routes across the field, because boot can be a little bit of a quarters beater. Okay, so I just put that in there as a little note. Overhang, same deal. They're a line of number 2. ATP, a line of perform. Okay, he's a 2 reroute player, 2 match player. So if 2's out of the box, then you got to detach out there with him. And then I put in parentheses, are you in or out of the fit? Are you in or out of the fit? Which can be dictated by how you set your front. 2x2, 10 personnel. In theory, if you set your strength of the field, then you are pushing that overhang out of the fit. He can fully detach out to the inside eye of that number 2 and not have to worry necessarily about putting his foot in the grass and attaching versus the run game right away. If that kid's going to be in the fit, then the ball is going to push out to him late. And if you watch the run fit film, guys, we talk about a lot about that and kind of how we coach those guys up. But the big thing for your overhangs is making sure that those slots are not getting in the middle of the field, at least not without contact. Okay, work the heck out of reroutes. Work the heck out of reroutes. Take speed off. Okay, responsibility-wise, they're number 2 out and wheel. Okay, they do attach onto the wheel with the safety. They didn't put that in there for the safety, but when you see wheels, we usually go over-under on those. We should have our overhang who's in that low pocket, and the safety's matching it over the top. Okay, so our safeties are alert to wheels while they're not going to go, and by rule, they're not going to go and rob number 1 necessarily. If they see that wheel route, it's going to be trying to get 2 guys over the top and not putting that overhang in a bad spot. Okay, Mike's your match number 3 kid. We talked about the push exchange. Put screen, put pipe. Sometimes you see against 2 high systems, it's kind of a 7-on-7 play, but you see that running back, that number 3, go right down the middle of the field, right? And I've said it's not necessarily a Friday night play plenty of times until it hit, right? So sometimes you do got to work that a little bit. If anybody comes through that pipeline of the defense, then you got to hit him, you got to take him. But typically our mics are not taking typically number 3 vertically, right? Run first guys. All those Mike and overhang guys, those are run first players for us. Okay, run first players. Talk about that in the run clinic. But just give you a picture here. We look at 10 personnel, 2x2 first of all, and all these things. I'm gonna have that red line right down the middle, so might as well get used to it. But just to show you that on each side of the formation, we're gonna make an independent check. In this case, it's balanced up. We're not too concerned about where the back is set necessarily in this case, but we're gonna get the same coverage check. This is gonna be our Mustang check. Okay, to each side. We're playing press man at number 1, safeties, overhangs, working that bracket at number 2. And obviously your will is your conflict player to the boundary. Okay, he does have that run gap in there, that B gap in our over front. All right. Into 11 personnel, 2x2. Again, same type of set, different type of personnel. For us guys, it's still Mustang. 1 and 2 detached, playing the exact same rules with our safeties on those number 2s. What changes our run fits? Okay, safety to the boundary is the force kid. All right, overhang to the field is the force kid in this case. Safety is secondary force. He's got to match that number 2 on any vertical release. All right, 21 personnel. Again, these are all going to be checks to Mustang on each half of the formation. And then as we get into it, we'll take a look at some of the combo checks. Okay, but again, counting detached receivers on each side, 1 detached. Got a tight end of the field. They playing Mustang. The safety to the boundary, his number 2's in the backfield. Overhang, his number 2's in the backfield. It's Will Backer right here. Okay, if someone were to come vertical or release on the wheel, okay, this one would match it. Get any type of pass game, he's typically going to be robbing, right? When he doesn't have that number 2. Safety doesn't have number 2. His eyes are on the cue. High ball, low ball. All right. Building off of our Mustang check, what we call solo. A lot of guys call it that. You might hear poach. That's our base adjustment when number 3 is attached. It means that the way that we're gonna treat this Solo really is Mustang. Solo is Mustang. It's just that number 2 weak side guy has walked himself over to become number 3 strong. Okay, there's going to be some slight adjustments from the backers and slight adjustment from the safety in terms of bumping over, usually on top of the guard. But again, align to perform. Who's your reroute key? Who's your match key? What do you have to do? What is your job in the pass game? Okay. Put it up there underneath there. It says you can play solo to 10 personnel. You can, but it's a lot of ground to cover. It's a lot of ground to cover. We're going to talk about our midpoints check and a little bit about defending 3x1, but try to get through this. It's not split field by definition. You're bringing a guy over in theory, but by concept, right, treating him as the boundary number 2, well, you can think of it by conceptually, it's still split field. All right, boundary corner's by himself on an island. That's what he does. That's okay. Field corner safety are paying no attention to number 3 post snap. They're immediately post snap. Pay no attention. They're locked on. They're 1 and 2 playing whatever check that they got on over there. It's our base check to motion, right? And one of the things that you get out of this is it is a 5/3 distribution. A 5/3 when you bring the boundary safety. Obviously, that puts you down a hat to the boundary in the pass and in the run. But one of the big routes that if you're going to run solo and bring that boundary safety over, got to be ready for some sort of switch verticals. Number 3 to the corner. Okay, number 3 on that flag, or whatever you want to call it. And that a giveaway for that guy sometimes a tighter split from that number 2. Tighter split from number 2 means you're going to get some kind of movement in there where the coaching point is for that soloed safety coming over. That he's got any vertical in the middle of the field. His eyes are on that number 3 initially, but however it distributes, if anybody comes over, he's going to take it. Okay, he's going to take it. Same exact rules with that number 3 as he would play the number 2. Okay, here's a look at how solo would distribute with a 3x1 set. We call that tray. Okay, tight end attached, 11 personnel. All right, here's your number 3 over here to the field. Our safety just kicked over, so taking a look at it. Okay, how we align the backers, guys. Again, who's this guy's number 2? His number 2 it's got to be the running back. That's who he's typically keying through the line of scrimmage. Okay, if you were to get some sort of wheel or flare, whatever it may be, that overhang takes it. Okay, we are pressed up playing Mustang still, but solo just means you are 100% by yourself. Okay, you don't want to be off and having a guy have space to work in when you're in solo. We want to press. We want to press. Okay, here's a look at that tight number 2. Okay, that kind of a tray wing set where you could get some sort of distribution where those routes come from a different guy in the middle of the field. Okay, so the safety's not just taking that guy. All right, that's pre-snap number 3. Okay, post-snap number 3 is who you got. Okay, post-snap number 3 is who you got. All right, moving on to zero moved and talking about nub sets and club. Okay, nub tight end or a tight end wing combo. When there's not a number 1 receiver to press, we call this club, and that's your traditional cover 2. Corners forced to flat, safety's your deep path guy. They talk about it conceptually as trying to build a cone around those routes. Okay, a cone between the deep safety, who's the top of the cone. Club corner, bottom and outside, and your overhang now does not have to detach to try to come out to play the flat. So a little bit of relief there, all right, in terms of his responsibility, where he's still going to try to wall from the middle of the field by formation as dictated by formation, whatever front you're in. Okay, but one of the different things that we can do is we can invert our corner and safety. That way we might get more of a run-oriented kid, a boundary safety who is uptight, can play that force to flat responsibility, and your corner can drop back. All right, so different ways that we can get into that based on game plan. That's something that's usually talked about during the week. It's typically not called. Okay, club for us, we don't run a ton of 2 read, to be completely honest with you. Okay? It takes a lot of practice time, a lot of investment. If we were seeing a lot of air raid or spread, whatever it might be, then that might be something that's worth more investment in our practice time. But we have it in. We run a little bit of edge pressure with it, but for us, we're not trying to overcoach it too much. It's the same coaching points. We still call it club. Okay, the difference is that your safety's got to step off a little bit more, right? He's got to sit at 12 yards and not bounce read in that number 2 at 10 like he normally would be. He's got to be able to get over the top of that number 1 if number 2 is shallow. Okay, so that's the difference there. And our corner's a little bit off, and obviously jumping that route from number 2. We got a clip here showing you eventually how we run that a little bit, but pretty common. You guys have probably seen a lot of that. But again, split field concepts. You see 3x1 to the field. Okay, well, to the boundary, club is something that we can get into. We can get into Mustang. We can get into invert. All right. But you can run a trap corner, you can drop a safety, you can do some different things to manipulate the backside a little bit differently depending on what you're seeing and how you want to get that maybe seventh hat in the box. All right. Here's how it looks against 22 personnel. So again, to our left here, to the field, we've got Mustang on, one detached. So we're pressed up to the boundary. They're calling club. So that's how it works there, is that the boundary safety is saying something completely different than what the field safety is, depending on what they're seeing and how they've been coached throughout the week, how we carry our checks. These are just our base ones. Okay. If we see that tight end wing combination, again, to the field, we've got two splits, so we can play our Mustang against that. We could play club if we wanted to. But that was something that we felt like we wanted to, especially against a formation like this, little gun tee. We might want to attach that Sam, money, the nickel, whatever you want to call him, a little bit tighter into the box and alleviate his responsibility for trying to push out with that number 2 flat. Okay, bring off the corner, step off the safety, play your 2 read. We could do that too. Okay. But to the boundary over here, 0 remove, tight end wing, we got a club on. Okay, strength is set that way. He's your E-gap player, your whatever you want to call it, your outside guy, your O-gap. And our safety is taking whatever vertical route he gets from those two. Okay, he's the deep half player, got to step off a little bit, but if he sees that run still, we showed you in the run clinic video that guy gets down and makes plays, baby. Okay, so just knowing your responsibility, understanding the scouting report, and knowing what type of athlete that you have in front of you to defend and what they like to do. Got to study the game, know the game, put your kids in the best position to be successful. And it's on them to understand the scouting report too. All right. Last little bit of talking, we're going to watch the film and wrap this thing up. A little bit unique here to what we do. Midpoints is something that I straight up stole from Pat Narduzzi, Michigan State at spring practice, right on the sideline real quick and talking through it. But, midpoints is something that, it's a cover 4 check, obviously, but it kind of distributes a lot like your cover 3 stuff would. And the idea behind midpoints, and we're talking 3 removed, 10 personnel, true 3-by-1 spread. Talk about field dimensions and the ball being on the hash so often. If you guys go and look at all the routes you've defended from that personnel grouping, how often are teams targeting that number 1, right? I think I've counted about 3 times in the past 3 years total. Okay. So it's the farthest throw that they can make, right? Therefore, it's the most dangerous. What you're going to see targets are going to be to that number 3 or the boundary 1 and then the slot 2. All right. So how we leverage that, our field corner sits on the midpoint, hence the name of 2 and 1. All right. He's reading 2 to 1. He is off. He is not pressed in any way. He is off. It's the exact same way, guys, that we actually teach our cover 3 stuff. We run our zone pressures. He's got to be able to overlap that number 2 vertically. Okay. So what do we do with our safety? A little bit different. We had played around a little bit with this, and this past year we moved him directly over the top of number 3. It used to be that he split the difference, played the midpoint of 2 and 3, the same way the corner played 2 and 1. And we put him right over the top of that number 3. And again, cross teaching, he's playing the exact same technique as he would in club. All right, just to that 3 and 2. He's stepping off. He's not going to go attack, bubbles or screens right away. All right. And then, we talked about solo and midpoints kind of complement each other a little bit. We don't want to play solo to 3 splits. Okay? We don't want to play midpoints to 3 attached, because that's a ton of space for that number 2 to work in. Okay, a ton of space. If you're setting your safety over top of that guy. And the nice thing about midpoints too, guys, is we're keeping the boundary side and whatever check they want. It is truly split field. Okay? It is truly split field. All right, back to the field, the difference is there's not much difference between how the nickel's playing and how the Mike is playing at all. There's consistency in teaching the checks. The match concepts are exactly the same. Nickel's rerouting 2. The only thing he might do differently now is we're going to sprint under 1. Okay, you get that rollout look. All right, that's where teams have mostly targeted that field number 1 in those 3-by-1 sets. Some sort of snag concept. All right, sprint to number 1 and go get underneath him. Okay, you are allowed to get your eyes to your reroute key and get to your spot. Okay, we allow our linebackers to do that. Okay. All right, Mike's pushed out. All right, we talk about the boundary, getting down whatever they want. That's what it looks like. Okay, that's what it looks like. Again, linebacker alignment is somewhat based on how the offense has presented that, in this case, this number 4 strong presentation. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. We might kick our will out a little bit more if you start to get some sort of swing and flare or whatever it might be. If you were to see roll out, our Mike goes and attacks it, okay, pushes it back in, and that will overtakes his responsibility playing that 3 match in the middle of the field. Okay, if the back was over to the other side, we'd kick the will over again, able to play him out of the backfield and any type of flare or some wheel. Okay, so that's 10 personnel. If you get a nub set, you can play it the exact same way, a 3x1 nub, and then to the boundary. Again, split field concept, they are playing club. Let's see here. We're going to kind of go in order between how we just presented those in terms of Mustang, and then we'll look at some stuff. But okay, what I'm highlighting here, guys, is Mustang to both sides. This is a kind of a flex bone formation and more of a wing tee concept of how this team was. But you're going to see press technique and some physicality here. And what you're actually going to see is the way that the two boundary guys are rerouted. Well, you'll see they end up actually rerouting each other pretty darn well. I'm not trying to make fun of anybody, but it is what it is. But right here, guys, you can see that in terms of the routes that distributed right now, okay, we've got 3 guys with hands on and a 4th one about to get his hands on that number 2 to the field. Okay, so let's see this. All right, disrupting timing. Get some sort of outbreaking route. It took longer to develop. It was inconsistent. Okay, you're going to see at the boundary, boom, yikes. Okay, ran into each other. All right, were they planning on doing that? No. Did it happen at all during the summer? No. Okay, but game 1 Friday night, which is where we're at. They got rerouted. All right, there they are. Okay, is what it is. Incompletion up at the top of the field. Again, that was one of those intermediate routes that was thrown against us this past year. They did not see a lot of this targeted. Okay, not a lot of it targeted. He wants interference. Maybe he could have got it, but oh well. Okay. All right. Bottom down here. Okay, this is 3rd and long, 3rd and 13 or so. Okay, this boundary safety's got to know the down and distance a little bit better. Okay, especially because this kid right here is a stud, is a Division II player. Our corner to the field understands that we give him the flexibility to bail if he wants to. If he feels like that's something that is going to help him, he can bail in 3rd and long. Okay, so he does that at the top of the screen. We're going to watch the boundary kid. Okay, gets the foot fire. We'd like to see him kick out a little bit more. Okay, we do teach the kick slide. Okay, a little bit too much. If you're going to feather like that without losing a little bit of ground, then you'd have to be a little bit deeper. We'd prefer that you kick off there and then offhand jam him to the sideline on the outside release. Okay, but you'll see it's not a perfect release in terms of how we're trying to get our corner to play that. All right, but he does get himself in phase right now for the fade ball. Okay, he does get himself in phase right now. All right, when you are in phase and you've got your hands attached to this hip here, you have the permission to look back for the football. If you are out of phase, you must get to the hip and get hands on the hip and then up through the chest of the receiver. Okay, all right, I said that backwards. If you are out of phase, you're typically coming down. In phase, come up through them because you can get that PBU, or in this case, there's your pick. Okay, doesn't happen much in press, guys. All right, but you give yourself a chance there. You run the space of that receiver to the sideline. Your best helper on the field is your sideline. You can get yourself a gift. All right. Okay. This was early on. This was 2018. We had some young corners who, had missed some practice time with some injuries and some different things. And the press technique was, maybe in this case, I want you to be up there, right? We want you to be up there, right? But you got to do what you feel confident doing too. And this one especially was, a little bit newer, a little bit more green in his position. So he's off. But what I'm really highlighting here, guys, is going to be this boundary safety whose number 2 is in the backfield. Okay, here's his number 2. All right, it's 3rd and 8. So he's thinking pass in this case. You're not a 2-back formation. Okay, as soon as he sees the high ball there, he's going to go find his eyes to help rob that number 1. All right, this overhang here to the boundary, he's having a hard time knowing what he's supposed to be doing, but he's got to play the wheel. Okay, you got to play the wheel. All right. But you do see in this case, it's not like he's setting the world on fire with speed, but our corner at least is in phase and he's off technique, starting off. You get an underthrown football. All right. That's pretty good recognition by our safety to get in and make that play and give himself a pick. Okay, so we'll see here. All right, from the boundary. Sorry, from the end zone. Okay, here's the eyes. You can see his eyes there. All right, I'm going to drift. Okay, I'm going to drift. In this case, number 2 is in the backfield. I'm on the cue. All right, turn and find the football. Come up with it. Okay, we'll take it. Good stuff. All right, now, so many clinics you see is all the good clips, right? So I'm going to show you the bad one here. All right, young corners. It happens, guys. Okay, if you are going to coach press, you have to be able to live with sometimes kids making mistakes, right? In this case here, you are not going to see any type of offhand jam from a boundary corner, and you get a good athlete that has to do nothing but run right by you, right? A little bit late on the foot fire. Okay. His technique was okay in terms of his foot placement and pressing off with that inside foot up. All right. But hey, this kid can run. Kick yourself off, give yourself a window to be able to get that offhand jam and work his body off of where he does not want to go. Okay. In this case, this route goes right up here. Okay. That route has to go here, ideally. All right. He gets to run whatever route he wants with no impedance. A good ball. Touchdown. Okay. Double whammy. If you get beat, get the kid down. Let's play another snap. Okay. Wanted to show you that there to show you guys that it's not all sunshine and rainbows all the time. Okay. It is not. Got to be able to live with it at times. Okay. Because what you're going to get is a lot of this. Wasted downs. Okay. Putting guys behind the chains. All right. Make sure you tell your corners too. Because when you do get, you're putting yourself up a little bit more to maybe be more susceptible to some PI calls. When you do get yourself in a situation where there's some contact and whatnot, don't put your hands up. All right. Did you interfere with him? Maybe, maybe not. The ref did not call it in this case, but don't give him the opportunity to call it. Okay, don't give him the opportunity. Little coaching point there for you. Don't let your kids put their hands up. Guilty. Okay. Last 2 clips here, guys asked too, in terms of, all right, bubbles. And right here, we've got a tray set 3x1. So we're playing, it looks like solo in this. Okay. Our overhang has to attach a little more because he does have a gap. He does not have a full cover down. After that, number 2. So how do you play the bubbles? How do you play the things in space? Okay, we're sending a little bit of edge pressure here, it looks like, from our mic. Okay. Safeties attack the bubble immediately in Mustang. Okay, safeties attack the bubble immediately in Mustang. In club and midpoints and whatnot, they would be stepping off. Okay, they'd be stepping off. Okay. Is it a great ball thrown? Is it fast? No, but boom. Okay. I don't think that kid wants to run a bubble again. Right. Okay, watching our safety here right now. And again, eye control on number 2. If his eyes are in here on the cue, well, it becomes pretty hard to match these routes. Okay. So again, going back to what I said about RPO type stuff, and I know this is not an RPO, looks like it was just tag pre-snap. Okay. But being able to react quickly to what your responsibility key is doing. Put that foot in the dirt and go. Boom. Okay. Big play down the red zone. Okay, here it is again. All right. I'm not going to tell you this ball was thrown great by any means, but just trying to highlight again that if you get a bubble route, you are down on that banana now. Okay. Your overhang will help you. It becomes a compression tackle in space. In this case, it's a pick. Okay. Yeah, not a greatly thrown ball, but just highlighting what the bubble looks like as far as how we're playing that. Okay. All right, we're going to take a look at our solo check, which is just Mustang to 3x1. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Crappy draw on 3. All right. This safety to the boundary is playing this number 3 the exact same way as if he was just his number 2 walked over. So he is kicked over on top of the guard. Our mic is slightly bumped out. You're going to see a little pop pass here. Okay. Little play action pop pass. Boom, tight end leaks. He's probably trying to run down the seam here. Does us a favor a little bit by running in a little bit. Okay. Quarterback sees late that someone has jumped it. All right. Mike popped up. That's fine. He's a run first player. Okay. Holds onto the ball and then throws a late one. All right. That we're able to get a hand down and deflect, and we're off the field in third down. Okay. From the end zone now to show you the alignments. Again, here is the boundary safety over top of the guard. His eyes are 100% here. Okay. 100% there. Get the release. No hands on. Okay. If his hands are not on somebody, he is running a route as far as how we're thinking it. All right. Quarterback has to pump it. Deflection, PBU, off the field. That's what solo looks like. All right. Here it is. We're in 2x2, guys. Okay, and we had a good feeling that this team in this situation was going to be running their jet roll stuff. Okay, so we were hollering about it on the sideline. So this one's he's already bumping over. All right. But this is how we play this to 3x1. Okay. From motion 3x1 created from 2x2. All right. Okay. Safety's going, hey, coach. Hey, yeah. All right. Kick over now. All right. Good. Now he has any route in the middle of the field. All right. Our overhang, our corner, and our field safety are really just worried about these two guys right here, with the exception of the overhang. Anything crossing his face, he's going to match. That's a push alert. Yeah, that's a push alert. All right. Our Mike comes out to force it right now. They do run the roll pass. Okay. Overhang is with the out route. This is a snag concept. So they're curling here. All right. And then here comes that number 3 flag. Okay, here comes that number 3 flag. Well, in this case, with the short routes, and this was the number 2 initially, becomes number 3 post snap. Our safety ends up on top of it. And with no threat in the middle of the field, you'll see our boundary kid work over to it as well. Okay, so they end up compressing the route here. And really, pretty decently ran route and a good ball delivered on the move. Okay, and even flattens it out a little bit. That's even tougher. All right. That's even tougher on us defensively than if it was truly to the corner. And we're able to break on it. You see our boundary safety covered ground from all the way over here to get over the top. Now, that's pretty darn, that's good. Okay, that's good. But that's understanding just some savvy for the game. That kid's dad was a coach at Western Michigan, been around the game forever. Okay. But just understand, hey, there was nothing over here. So, okay, I can strip my ass off and go make the play. And they come and compress it, hand on, hit, ball out. All right, end up being 3rd and long. All right. What I want to show here, okay, this is a way sometimes that we do play, guys. I didn't have a slide on this, but this is a variation. Sometimes when we get a nub, okay, this is 21 personnel. That we counted this one as a back for them. Okay, when you get a nub set up there, we knew that if they were in this personnel set, that we wanted to play what we call X out, okay, X out, which is a fancy term for corners over. All right. The only difference, the way that we've done it, is that this is our field safety. He rolled down and played that number 2 man to man. He is acting like our boundary corner walked over. Okay. This is our boundary safety who then kicks over and becomes the free safety. Okay. Looking at that number, he'd be the number 2 now. Okay. We X out this guy from the count. Okay. That's how that looks. All right. We've X'd him out from the count. And we end up getting these routes matched. And what this allows you to do when you play X out, you can keep your core intact. You do not have to bump your backers any type of 3x1. You do not have to apex anybody out. You can keep your core intact. And our boundary corner is playing that number 1 man-to-man. Okay? This is X out for us. A different way, a different check that you can carry. All right, you see that we got these things pretty well distributed. Okay? They are both locked up on their keys. All right? He was locked up with that number 3 who pushed out. He got late help from his overhang. Okay. And the way it works, okay, we get a 2-on-1 and almost a pick. Almost a pick, just out of bounds. Okay, that is X out. We have that in our tool belt to any nub set. Okay, to any nub set. You can play that X out check and then play whatever type of quarters you want to the field on that number 2 and number 3 if it's trips. Okay, keep your core intact is the way that you can do that. All right, we look at our club tape now. Okay, we have this is 3rd and long for us, guys. We're in our dime, so this is our dime safety, our 3rd safety in the middle of the field. We take a defensive lineman off the field, okay, and put another DB in, but you're going to see the same distribution. We can keep the coverage the same. and it ends up just being a 3-man rush, right? With it's quarters with a middle of the field guy, essentially. But you're going to see our club distribution down to the boundary with our club corner and our deep half safety. Okay, you're going to get a release out of the tight end wing with both of them. Okay, and they do switch it. Okay, but you can see that we do get a reroute. We're in club. He is not pass responsible here. He does carry his reroute a little bit longer, and it ends up working out. It's fine. Okay. And this kid right here he's a linebacker that we put down at DN for this package. And he's, do I go? Do I not? Yeah, go. You can go get him. Okay. 2-man rush, 1-man rush. Kid at the top of the screen wasn't much better. Okay. 10-man drop, clinic. All right. But what you do see here is that he is responsible for force to flats. But if there's nothing that presents in the flats, right, then you keep deepening out. It turns into quarters. Quarters. All right, on the 2 vertical routes. Okay, part of the check, part of the family. All right, off the field. Okay. Here we go. Again, I'm going to show you some of the duds. All right. We are down 4 points in a playoff game against our rival, and we need to get a stop and get the football back to score and win a game. Okay. This safety here, all right, had repped at corner all week. We had, an injury and all that stuff. So he maybe did not get the reps of playing club the way he's supposed to against this one right here. He has got to be alert to the drag. What is the threat on that side of the field? One guy. If anybody comes from the backfield, okay, your corner matches that. Okay, your club corner matches that. So what ends up happening? 3rd down, trying to make him kick it. Okay, get the football back with a chance to, score and win it or go to OT. All right. Hey, things happen. Circumstantial. All right. It goes back to what I put there with the safety. Alert drag. He did not touch anybody. He is running a route. You match him. Okay, I know that on paper, right? On paper, he's a deep halves player. Right? On Friday night, when you got to go win a playoff game across town, you got that dude. Okay, you got that dude. All right. Okay, just showing you there how that kind of looks. When things don't go your way. All right. We are playing now. This is club to 2 removed. Okay, club to 2 removed. So we have eyes on number 2. And you're going to see that this is every corner's dream is to get that outbreaking route from that number 2 so I can jump it. And if I don't get a pick and house it, I'm going to get a big hit. Okay, let's see here. All right, he should be shuffling off a little bit more to give himself some space, right? Because he's got to take this number 1 vertically if he continues, right? And this one continues. Okay, he's got to hop off a little bit more. Technique is not great. Okay, but here comes that out route. It's 4th down. It's 4th and 8. They're going for it in their half of the field. Okay, here comes that out route. And they throw it. And they complete it for 9 yards. Okay. Again, guys, we don't run a ton of this. And one of the things you got to take as a coach here is that, if you're running something, I'm not saying we didn't practice it, obviously, but, you got to do it enough to be good at. And why don't we run a ton of it? Okay, because of stuff like this. Okay. Should you knock that out? All the 2 read guys are saying that's a dream, right? That's a dream route to get. Okay. But, we haven't seen enough to really make it a point of emphasis in our program. It's just that's how we do it, guys. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. All right. But right there, ran it, saw it, maybe I'd think a lot different about it if we, got our pick or got our big hit or whatever it is, but we didn't. All right. But anyway, that's my spiel on 2 read. I think it's a great coverage. I think it's something that you have to have if you're seeing certain types of teams. We just don't see those types of teams in Michigan. Okay. Here's our midpoints check. All right. Here's midpoints to 3 removed. Balls on a hash. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Look at the huge split between 1 and 2 right here. A huge split. 1's at the bottom of the numbers and 1 is inside the hash. Okay. Huge split. All right. In this case, finding that midpoint for that corner right there. Okay. He's sitting on top of it. He is playing cover 3 technique. Cover 3 technique. It's the same cross teaching when we do our zone blitzes. All right. We're playing cover 2 technique with this safety here. All right, packaging the teaching. Overhang is still a reroute number 2, sprint under number 1. Okay, Mike is still a reroute 3 player. He doesn't get it here. Okay, let's take a look at this now. Distribute. You're going to see essentially 3 verticals to the field. Okay, boom, good reroute. Good reroute. 2 hands on, good, took speed off, turned his hips, and altered the direction of that route. Okay, wide number 1. Wide number 1. All right, our corner is looking at this 2. He is looking at this 2. All right. Can jump it. Not a greatly thrown ball. All right. But really, you're trying to draw clinic tape for how midpoints looks, guys. Pretty good. Yeah, that's a pretty good athlete there at corner, too, for us. He's, depending on who you ask, he's in one of the top 5 baseball prospects in the country. So we're happy he's at our school. All right. Good pick. Okay. End zone view real quick. Okay. Nothing super crazy to show there, guys. But again, just the eye control. What's the difference between this and, cover 3 essentially? All right. Eyes are still on that number 3. They're not in the backfield. Okay. To the boundary split field, they are playing Mustang over here. We got a press corner outside. Okay. His eyes can drift to the quarterback. Okay. Quarterback is looking this way. He can work this way. Okay. Midpoints. That's how that looks. All right. We'll look at another snap of it here. Okay. 3x1 to the boundary, to the field. Okay. End up getting a sack here out of this. One thing I wanted to highlight, though, is the reroutes. Okay. 3-match player, 2-match player. We get hands on with both of them. Bang, bang. Okay. Taking speed off. All right. Our Will picked up the leakage out of the backfield the way he is supposed to. A lot of the times it's a flare. But right now, okay, he ended up just kind of leaking out right on the middle. Okay, good coverage. Mike added on. Okay, added on. And there we go. Okay. We're kind of in a 3-3 look in that case. All right. All right, another snap at midpoints again. Okay, you can play whatever you want to the boundary. We're in Mustang again. That's our number 1. Okay, let's see, roll pass again. Okay, going to force it. All right, he's getting hands on number 2, and then he'll eventually come off this number 3. It's okay to throw the intermediate route. We're midpointing, okay, and we're deep here. Middle of the field safety again. All right, because he got the roll pass over there. Okay, and I'm getting a throwaway. All right. Pressure's good. Coverage was too. Reroutes, good. The only thing that we'd like to see in this case, guys, okay, when you have 4 strong, number 4 here, okay, and your Mike is anticipating this, we knew that roll was coming with this team a lot, but all right, we would like to see him overtake that, obviously, and work his way out to try to look for something coming back in. Okay, he kind of stays right here and hits his feet. I know he sees that stuff's happening, but we'd like that kid to be out. He's replacing the Mike in the distribution. Okay, getting down towards the end here, guys. Midpoints, one of the things that, on a whiteboard, okay, screen looks really good. Screen looks really good. Bubbles number 3 look really good because that safety is playing deep and off, right? And all you have here are your 2 underneath guys, okay? Especially when your Mike bites on the run fake here. It's fine. He's a run first player, and that ball comes out. They got to be physical and block the feet. Nickel, you have got to knock the crap out of that slot kid. You are tougher than he is, and get over the top. Okay, boom. It's one of the toughest kids we've had in a Mustang uniform, all right? I don't love the head placement there and whatnot, okay? Unintentional part of the game, but, okay, just phenomenal effort, okay? Effort erases mistakes. Effort erases being out-schemed a little bit at times, okay? Takes 2 blockers and makes the tackle. That's a 2-yard loss on a bubble. Pretty good. Okay. All right. Guys, we're sitting at about an hour right now, getting into this thing, and we went through the majority of our base checks. Okay. All of this, guys, I want to just hammer this home real quick. This is all something that I learned from somebody else. Okay. It's not my stuff. I didn't invent it. we put different things together that we like, but I'm an open book when it comes to sharing the stuff with anybody. Okay. And we didn't get into a ton of the specific stuff and even some of our change ups, but I'll have my contact info for you here, but just some take home points for you. All right. We feel like the split field system allows us to reduce teaching time and be pretty multiple of what we do. All right. We're very half line based as far as how we run our practices. That allows us to get good competition as far as good on good with your scout team kids. Okay, teaching the split field stuff, you can get that instead of running against duds sometimes. But conceptually, guys, I think it's easy enough to teach at all levels of your program. From middle school on up, all right, they can run split field quarters. Pretty simple. Yeah, the way we look at it with press corners, talk about a little bit, it allows you to have an identity and forces teams to execute. Okay, and base match responsibilities, check to check, week to week. All right, those concepts transition. Okay, those concepts transition, and then you can tweak. There's so many different things out there, guys. And I think at one point in Michigan State, Narduzzi said that he had something like 25 different ways that they play quarters, which is crazy. Okay, but the point is, you're not going to carry things obviously each week, but what you see, you can have things in your tool belt to defend. And you can have answers to problems that you see. Okay. That's what we like about it, guys. I'm not saying it's the greatest coverage of all time. I'm not saying, that it's better than another, but it works for us. We love coaching it. I think our kids love playing it. And at any time, guys, there's my contact info. I'm active on Twitter, through email. I was happy to send out some stuff. Guys asked about that run fit stuff a little bit. I was super humbled to get some love from guys and all that, and just be able to talk ball with people and represent Portage Central. It's a great place to coach, a great place to live and raise our family. If you guys ever need anything, please reach out. Again, wrote a little website years ago. I've not updated it a ton, but if you want to get a free ebook that goes on a lot of the stuff that we just talked about, guys, you can get it there by just putting an email, and you get to click a link and download it right there. I don't email you, stuff out and all that. I'm just trying to share what people have shared with me. It's kind of how I look at it. So, hey, appreciate you guys listening. Hope everybody is staying safe and finding ways to keep themselves entertained. I'm going to go watch Frozen tomorrow for, however many times, but we'll see. All right. Love everybody. Take care.